Welcome to the new MMR Trains and More YouTube channel.
All aboard!
Hello YouTube, Mark here, MMR Trains and More. Today we're talking about saving money, getting high quality cars in the process, and not being affected as much by the current situation in manufacturers not being able to bring things into countries at reasonable prices. Now, we're not a political channel here, so however you feel about that is your opinion and none of my business. We're here to have fun with model railroading, learn a little something along the way, and enjoy the hobby. So the first car rolling in, it's about 30 years old now, but still available. Can you believe this is from Tyco? This is the Tyco 40-foot gondola, commonly found in train sets throughout the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Now available at swap meets. Of course, it doesn't look like this in its natural form. Many of them were painted Union Pacific, had a couple of cylindrical loads, culvert or pipe installed inside. Once you get rid of some of that stuff, take the underframe off, you've got yourself a pretty decent starting block to build a good representation of what the Chicago Northwestern had at one time in their gondola fleet. And these, of course, lasted actually well into the 90s, some of them in maintenance of way service, chiefly in MOW service. The decals on it were from DM decals. They're no longer in business. But again, if you're not modeling Northwestern or you're looking at just building a decent car, this may be an option for you. Most of these cars are sold around $5 at a swap meet, at least in my area here in the Midwest. And once you add the detail parts that are required, detail associate brake parts necessary to redo the underframe. My underframe was done with, I believe, leftover parts from a front range kit, another ancient model. But there again, CalScale, Detail Associates, most of them still offer detail parts like that. If none of that appeals to you, AccuRail currently offers a very nice gondola, very similar, different road names of course, and you can build an American-made model with an AccuRail kit. Next money-saving idea for everyone. The Meat Reefer was available in various private owner lines, various road names. On my railroad, there was usually a block of Meat Reefers that moved between Minneapolis and Chicago on one or two of the Soo Line trains. Get her in position here for you. Can you believe this is a model by Lifelike? A very old Lifelike model. Now it's been re-decaled with Champ decals. They're also long out of business. However, Champ decals are still available on eBay for, some people get around $10 a set for them, but let's just assume they're going to be a little cheaper and say altogether with shipping, we'll maybe make it about a $10 to $12 item. The car itself, another swap meet find. You can usually find these again for $2 to $5 a car. And on this model, it was just a matter of shaving off the details, such as the grab irons, adding new stirrups. This one had an arrangement with the underframe with gussets on the end of the car, steel plate, which made it kind of unique. And I didn't even do a very high-end detail job on it. It was more of a runner. But let's see if I can turn it over here for you. Very basic underframe from Train Miniatures. Again, an Athearn style wheel and trucks. The end received a brake staff and an AccuRail brake wheel. The roof on this model is probably the weakest spot. However, I have seen worse. The details are rather fine. They're not very pronounced, but perhaps that's not the worst thing on an older car like this. There's nothing too clunky to stand out on it, and it's a good runner. Of course, the modern day version of this is by our friends up in Canada at Rapido. A very nice car, as you can see. This one came as an undecorated model, and again I had a supply of Champ decals, and I laid down some paint on it and decaled it. Much better roof line, better hatch detail, but a new car like this would be around $40 to $50, and that was before the situation we're in now. So if they're still available, I do not know, but I do know that there are tons of lifelike reefers at train shows. So again, for a little less than $40, I would imagine, adding up the decal cost, the car cost, and donor Athearn boxcar or a similar car for the trucks, and of course KD couplers, I think you'd still be in the ballpark, and you probably have more fun building it. And one more car for us to look at here, another reefer. I wish I would have grabbed more boxcars, but here's another reefer for us coming in. This car was offered by Roundhouse MDC back in the day. It's another interesting model in that it was undecorated, and here of course we laid down yellow sides, a Tuscan or a oxide actually roof, and again different underframe on it. You could have used the original from Roundhouse. It was a truss rod car if I remember right, but we modified it with a steel underframe, and this one here again is basically a underframe from Train Miniatures or Walthers. Roundhouse, or better put Athearn trucks on it. And a basic brake staff on here, right from Roundhouse, with an AccuRail brake wheel. On this model I added new stirrups to it, but I figured the detailing on the grab irons was good enough. And with a little bit of weathering, it makes them stand out, and another fine runner. Of course, beyond the freight car world, we have buildings to look at, and I already discussed our depot here at Oshkosh being an old Sidem kit with a new roof and some channel to represent the gutters. It's good enough for a foreground building, at least in my opinion. Railmodel Journal was quite the magazine. They featured the kind of stories that we're talking about right now. Of course, this is all 30 years ago, but to me, I look forward every month to seeing an article by Richard Hendrickson. I would say probably one of the founders of the RPM movement today. Just a modeler with a creative mind and knew enough about any sort of freight car from all the different railroads that when He said this is the part you use, and it was in print. Well, that's the part you got. And you tried to copy what he did, and oftentimes, at least on my end, the project would not come out nearly as nice in those early days as what he had. But, you know, I think this is the kind of stuff we're missing today in the hobby. Now, if you would be so kind to subscribe to my channel, I'd appreciate it. Thank you for tuning in today, and we'll see you down the rails.